Welcome to Dr. Lottie's Science with Soul, the podcast that transcends the boundaries between science and spirituality. I'm Dr. Lottie, your host, a physician, medical and psychic medium, ancestral healer, keynote speaker, and award-winning author of Med School After Menopause, The Journey of My Soul. This podcast finds its roots in my own extraordinary life experiences. Through my personal odyssey, I have discovered our profound connection within a divine tapestry of existence. I have traversed the realms of illness, healing, and transformation, propelled by two near-death out-of-body experiences that bestowed upon me the extraordinary gifts of clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsentience. Guided by this sacred calling, I embraced the pursuit of medical school at the age of 54. Prepared to be uplifted, transformed, and awakened to create a path to healing your own life physically, emotionally, and spiritually by bridging the gap between science and soul. Welcome to Dr. Lottie Science with Soul. I'm Dr. Lottie and the host of this podcast. Today, I am so excited to introduce to you all Spring Washam. Spring Washam, considered a pioneer in bringing mindfulness-based meditation practices to diverse communities. She's a well-known teacher, healer, and visionary leader based in Oakland, California. She is the author of 2 books, A Fierce Heart, Finding Strength, Courage, and Wisdom in Any Moment, and The Spirit of Harriet Tubman, Awakening from the Underground. Spring is one of the founding teachers at the East Bay Meditation Center in East Bay, San Francisco, an organization that offers Buddhist teachings with attention to social action and multiculturalism. She's a member of the Teachers Council at the Spirit Rock Meditation Center, offering teachings on Buddhism philosophy, insight meditation, and loving kindness practices. Spring is also the founder of Lotus Vine Journeys, a one-of-a-kind organization that blends indigenous healing practices with Buddhist wisdom for transformative retreats in South America. She has practiced and studied Buddhist philosophy in both the Theravada and Tibetan schools of Buddhism since 1999. Spring is also a shamanic practitioner and has studied indigenous healing practices since 2008. Spring's workshop, interviews, and writing can be found in mainstream media worldwide. So welcome, Spring. It's such an honor to have you as a guest today.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Lottie. I'm so happy to be here with you.
So looking at your website, I found this quote, and it says, I still remember the moment I learned you could heal your life and transform your reality using your thoughts and intentions. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey starting in childhood and what inspired you to study Buddhism and meditation?
Well, I think when I was younger, I was so curious growing up about suffering. And I think, I grew up around just beautiful people, but just had so much trauma. And therefore they weren't really able to maybe parent the way you would want, I guess that'd be a really nice way of saying that. And at a young age, just all the suffering and then just the urban grind, of living in a low income area and then violence and the turmoil and the kind of all of that. I was very aware when I was younger of what was happening around me and just so curious. And so I think I remember being a child, somebody asked me what I wanted to do. I don't remember where I got the word psychiatrist, but I remember saying that and they would all laugh like, do you know how many years you have to go to school? And I was like, I'm going to be a psychiatrist, help people with their mind. And then years later, being a Buddhist meditation teacher, you're just like talking to people about their minds all day, every day. It's a kind of form of psychiatry. In its own unique way, of course. But I think it was the suffering. It really was my own suffering of just, getting older and then depression and then healing myself from depression and starting to understand this mind body connection. Because even when I was younger, I always thought something's wrong with our thoughts. I really used to think that it's all about their why are they thinking like this? And then they hurt their children or they leave or they're on drugs, they're thinking. So I just didn't have a practice. And this was kind of newer then. So here we are, all of these years later, inspired by suffering always to wake up. This is like the core of everything I feel.
And what was that moment that I still remember the moment I learned you could heal your life? Do you remember what that moment was?
Yes, I do remember that. I wrote that a lot about it in my first book, A Fierce Heart, where I stumbled upon meditation. Somebody left a book by Paramahansa Yogananda, a Hindu teacher who wrote famous books like Autobiography of a Yogi. Somebody left one of his books in my house when I was moving, and I was like, "Who is this?" And it's this long-haired Hindu sort of sadhu-looking man, and I started reading it, and that was an initial catalyst. And then another was when I learned how to do insight meditation. And then I learned that I could become present. For me, that was radical, that I had a choice every day. I can believe my thoughts or I cannot believe them. The thoughts are there. I bother them, then they bother me. We get tangled, they're suffering. I started to see this over the loop, right? And I started to recognize, wow, I have a choice. Have a choice of what to follow today. I have a choice of what to believe. And that was the beginning of a tremendous amount of freedom. And that's still my practice today. I could wake up, there's thoughts there. Some are skillful, some are not skillful, some are helpful, some are definitely not helpful. And it's to let them go and to choose, to become more present. So yeah, that was kind of a big breakthrough in my early 20s around meditation.
So now you're teaching meditation, and who can benefit? So all the people that are out there that feel lost and are searching for a more meaningful life or spirituality, who can benefit, or what do you see the benefits are from meditation?
I think for a lot of people, I think over the last couple of years, they've really turned to meditation, being that we lived through this really intense quarantine and lockdown and all of that. Um, I feel everybody can benefit from meditation, no matter what your faith is. It's not really complicated on a lot of levels. It's just learning how to rest in the present moment. A lot of people think meditation is really hard. Like, I'm too tired to meditate. I'm too, like they're going to go work out at the gym. Yeah, I can understand, but really it's just about settling back. And I think this could be tremendously benefit for everyone who's listening and anyone in the world who wants to learn how to access this stillness inside of us, this quiet. It's so noisy everywhere. Everything's amplified. It's like we walk down the street and it's just like this amplification, but there is a stillness that's like always flowing on the inside. But we have to learn how to attune to it, access it, and then learn how to practice listening to it.
So sometimes when people start meditating, they say, I don't know how to empty my mind. I just keep thinking about things. So
Right.
what advice do
Welcome.
you have?
Yeah. Welcome that's the first thing that you have an insight. My mind is totally crazy. It has no boundaries. It will go everywhere. And it's not really about emptying your mind. It's impossible to do that. That's like emptying the water out of the ocean. Good luck with that. The mind's full of thoughts, right? And so what we do is we just start to become more observant, right? There's a difference between being aware that we're thinking and being lost in thinking, right? I can notice a thought arise and notice it pass away. So I think this is the big difference there is mostly we like our thoughts all day long. We enjoy them. We get entertained in them, even though they create kind of hell. We're used to it. So this is a different way of being. We're not going to empty our minds. We're just going to settle back notice, and try to stay untangled. Try to practice presence. And with anything, meditation is a habit. So you're not going to sit down on the first day and be a Zen master. Give yourself, if people give up one time, it didn't work. All I did was think, well, yeah, that's what our habit is. So you got to realize that you're developing a new habit and a new skill set. And it just really, really, every moment of mindfulness leads to another moment. And so there's a way that we approach it with some patience. We love instant in our society, but there's no instant meditation, right? We slowly acclimatize our consciousness and our habit to settling down.
And you also work with plant medicine like ayahuasca, which is you can see that everywhere. Even the Shift Network now has
Oh, I
talks
know.
about
It's all
ayahuasca
over.
and the benefits of it. But for the people who have not heard about plant medicine or ayahuasca, I know you lead retreats and things down in South America, is it?
I do. I do lead retreats in Costa Rica. So ayahuasca, which is an unusual word. Plant medicine and psychedelics and all of these different things, it's really making a huge comeback right now because of all the science, right? That is showing long-term benefits to um, depression and post-traumatic stress and trauma and just a better sense of well-being, more connected, more healthy. So I feel that this is such a beautiful opportunity for this moment in time for people who are interested. It's kind of a catalytic moment where all these things are available. So yes, I started working with ayahuasca very early in the movement. I guess it was 2008, and I was introduced to it because of the childhood trauma that I couldn't seem to resolve. So as someone who's always fascinated in healing in different modalities, I was introduced to it, and I found it incredibly beneficial to meditate to it, to work with plant-based medicine as a form of practice, and to include it and as part of my meditation. And it's for those that it's right for, it can be incredibly life-changing and very, very helpful, and also cut through places that we habitually can end up taking years to sort out. It's like the 10-year therapy plan, right? Where we could kind of cut through. And right now we do need to move a little faster here. We're on the brink of the apocalypse, it feels like daily. So there's a certain appreciation I have with expedience and things that doesn't mean it's easy. Shortcuts sometimes are hard, right? Do you want to walk around the mountain or you want to climb this hill and you go straight up? They have their challenges. So, but there's a whole lot of information if people are interested in working with plant-based medicine or interested in ayahuasca. I have a lot of information online with my organization, Lotus Vine Journeys, which blends Buddhist-based practices with these indigenous medicines. So I kind of put them together. That was
this was
a big
beautiful.
step.
Yeah. And so, how often do you hold retreats down in Costa Rica?
So right now I hold 2 retreats there. And then I'm going to be starting to offer more. I was for many years, half the year in Peru. We just recently relocated to Costa Rica, but for the last 7 years, I used to do 5 to 6 retreats a year in Peru. So that was, pretty full time. But now, since laws are changing here in the US, there's huge push toward not just decriminalization, but legalization. So I will be offering more in those states where they have decided that it's legal for community use. And I'm excited about offering these medicines to those who are ready and feel the interested and could utilize these kind of medicines.
And do you know offhand what states have made it legal
Yes,
already?
offhand. So I just came from, I'm really fresh in this because I was just at the MAPS conference, which is the Multidisciplinary Association for
Yeah.
Psychedelic Science. I had a huge conference in Denver, 12,000 therapists and scientists there. It was really, really exciting. All the research that's happening at universities and Johns Hopkins and psilocybin mushroom studies on depressed people. And I think what was the most inspiring, just to kind of go off on a moment tangent, was the veterans. Yeah, the stories of people really on the brink of suicide from symptoms of post traumatic stress. Their stories of healing, working with all these things. So what was exciting is Denver has made it, Colorado, in this, especially in Denver, there's a big movement there, and also Oregon, and then has legalized psilocybin and legalized ayahuasca, and then of course California. Sometime next year, they're predicting that the bill will move forward. Who knows? But there is movement here. And the good thing is South America, I never thought about it because I always worked in South America where in Peru and Brazil, ayahuasca and these plants are considered, you could walk through the airport, and people are very mindful and they treat it as a very sacred sacrament of that which it is. But it's interesting being with all the laws, like, wow, okay, I have to get used to the North.
Right. It's coming though. I mean, there is such a beautiful movement happening where there is this whole awakening to the heart, merging the mind
Oh,
with the body.
yes. In nature, I
Mhm.
feel that these are gifts from Mother Earth because they connect us to the planet, to the water, to the earth, to the air, to the fire. Well, this is such a big piece for all of us is our relationship to the earth and how we care for it. And so I see this as positive. Doesn't mean there won't be dramas and challenges. But overall, I feel that this movement, for me, it offers some hope. Can we turn the corner here and maybe all of these plants and other substances can be utilized in a way that is of great benefit to humanity?
Yeah, absolutely. It's plant medicine. We were supposed to use it. That's how I look at it. It comes from the earth.
Yeah, these are
It's a gift.
natural medicines, we could
Yeah.
say. They've been used. And what's so interesting is, at this conference, it was really a mix of South and North, South Americans and North Americans, and how thousands of years these plants have been used safely, you know. And they laugh. A lot of indigenous people laugh at all of our science, and they're like, "We've been using this safely for hundreds of years, just so and everyone's debating it. And meantime, this has been going on and on all over South America in a very conscious way. So here we are at this moment in time, and yes, it's probably going to be on the front of every news program pretty soon because of the research and the growing interest in psychedelic assisted therapy and plant medicine for healing places that feel unworkable, so tangled and blocked that it just feels like we're at an impasse. But we're not. I feel great. I'm an optimist.
Yeah, I think we're moving in the right direction. So, and
Yes,
people
we're
are
going
in such a
somewhere, that's for
huge, yeah,
sure.
it's such a huge awakening when you see the Shift Network running ayahuasca and psilocybin and all
Yeah,
these.
they're running retreats. I know the
Yep.
founder is my friend leads some of this work with
Mhm.
them in Puma and in the Sacred Valley. Yeah, a lot of leaders though. You'd be surprised how many people reach out to us that are um maybe would surprise people. I'll put it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about your book, The Spirit of Harriet Tubman, Awakening from the Underground. So, first, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, I think it was during 2020, during the pandemic, and it was in May. And I write a lot about the inspiration in the first couple of chapters. Harriet just started appearing and helping me. At first, it was I start the book with a vision of just being chased, and it was just terrifying, kind of like a dream vision And it was right when all these murders were happening of Black people. George Floyd, a week before then, Harriet came and started holding my hand. And I guess one could say the book was inspired by Harriet Tubman, who wanted a book about her heart for this time and a message. And I kind of map out the whole relationship, and I'm still in awe of it, Dr. Laddie. I still am making sense of it, this dialogue. And I call it more of a conversation with an ancestor. This is like an ancestor who feels very connected to this place and feels the work is not done yet and is back in the spirit form, back in consciousness, because we're ready for that, you know? And so the book took me on a mind-bending journey of growth and healing. And I just really give thanks to Harriet Tubman. I feel like Harriet saved me. I start the book with that chapter, and I feel like Harriet saves me every day, with things that are going, like the Supreme Court, recently turning back all these, huge, huge milestones, and thinking, okay, here we are again. We're back in time. So Harriet Tubman, yeah, it's a wonderful story. I hope people find great joy and inspiration and connect to the spirit of Harriet Tubman for themselves. That I hope this book is a kind of a conduit for that connection.
And do you feel she guided you through the chapters, or was it more in the beginning of the book?
Oh no, each chapter, there's 12 chapters, and each chapter is about Harriet's life and then her thoughts about it. So it moves through from birth all the way up until she dies, through these 12 periods that are historical: the Civil War, the women's liberation movement, slavery, dismantling, conductor on the Underground Railroad. I mean, she was just in this, momentous period of great change. And it feels really relevant to right now. Like something definitely is falling apart, and it will come back together. And I feel that the inspiration that Harriet Tubman, I think, was such a believer in possibilities of freedom and freedom for every being. So we need her spirit now more than ever.
Yeah, I would say that's very true. Definitely need her spirit. So I know that in the book you talk about how someone can learn how to remain fearless in the face of hatred and confusion. Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, it's also a key component to all of this is that, I work with a lot of activists. I always have. And downtown Oakland is very active, hotbed of activity for activists in a lot of different areas. And as we do our work now, and as we face the difficulties, our society is so polarized. And it's very important that we not get sucked into that as far as hate for hate. If we're giving back hatred for hatred, standing up for oneself um, doesn't mean we have to do it with, a fist and a knife in our hand or gun. And when you know who you are, you don't listen to what people are saying about you and how they're defining you. And I think that's the power that Harriet Tubman had. Harriet was never believed any of the things people said, not about her being Black and not about her gender, not about her ability to read or write. It was just movement. Like, I am who I am, and I will move in a fearless way. And there's something that we can learn from that. We don't have to be so sensitive. Now is not the time for sensitivities in a way. We just had to move forward with a kind of, stepping and knowing ourselves. If I know who I am, no one can break that. No one can, it's like I have a power, and that's what we need to access. Know who we are, know our values. And I feel like I really learned that a lot with Harriet Tubman. Harriet was so looked down upon in the culture, born a slave, was like her destiny was already etched right when she was born, but it was like, breaking through that. So I think when you know who you are, you don't have to respond with violence. You know who you are. And it doesn't, the energy doesn't affect you, and it doesn't mean that you don't respond, but how we respond now, I think, is really important.
Yeah. What do you hope people will take away after reading that book?
Um, First is that one person can do a lot of good, because one flame lights a million, right? So don't underestimate also the sort of overlooked among us, prophets. In some way, this book I write about Harriet Tubman as being an awakened being, because this was the messages throughout the chapter. And what I want is for people to find their power. We're so much stronger than we know. And sometimes, we're living this dream life, and it's our fairy tale, and it's archetypal what's happening right now. And who are we in that? And we're conductors of something in our lives, love and truth. Whether you're conducting your family or your community or your followers, or we're conducting something. And I think Harriet can help us be those conductors as we head, out into these places that are scary, and move through this period in our society, in our world, where everything feels like it's on the brink of something. Let's see. But I'm hoping that people get a download of courage. Yeah. Because that's one thing Harriet has, is this courageous heart. And also, I will say too, a connection to a higher power. Because for those people who cannot connect to the divine within them right now, who can't find that, they won't make this turn that we're heading into. They'll self-destruct, right? They won't. You have to find this now within yourself, because that's the only thing that's going to give you ground, right? Because it's, when the bottom falls out, you got to know who you are. You have to know that your power, your light, your spirit, and that's how you make it through. And so I feel that Harriet gives a lot of reflections, and offers a valuable perspective there.
And I know it's such a beautiful way that you describe it, because you have the shamanism, you have the Buddhism, you have the meditation piece, you have your own life experiences to draw on, and you somehow managed to combine all of that into this beautiful package to
I
deliver
know,
to the
it is
people,
funny.
right? So when you hold retreats and things like that, is it a combination of let's say somebody signs up for one of your retreats in Costa Rica? Is it a combination of Buddhism, shamanism, awakening, meditation, or what can they expect?
Yeah, it is a combination of all that, because in some way, all of it is the same. It's all the same. When we're working with plant medicine, we're just accelerating insight and liberation. It's just like we went from walking down the street to getting in a 90-mile-an-hour vehicle. Now we're using the same principles: stay in your body, awaken your heart, let go, over and over, right? This is suffering. It's the same. It's Buddha Dharma. It always has been. That's why I started having Buddhist-based plant medicine retreats early on, because I said, this is just an accelerated meditation. This is like we sat for 1 month and one night. It's going to go really fast, and you do mindfulness, you practice, you learn how to work with your body. And so Harriet, as part of, in the Buddhist tradition, we have these archetypes of the bodhisattvas, those who make vows to be of great support to all beings. And so it fits in, as when we thank all the ancestors, the bodhisattvas, we thank Harriet Tubman for conducting the ceremony, guiding us through whatever we need to get through. So somehow the song becomes the same. And these are just, archetypal messages in a lot of ways, when we're healing ourselves. So people love when I talk about Harriet Tubman. They love when I talk about Buddhism. And they love when I talk about the indigenous people who carry the medicine for thousands of years to help us get to this moment in time. So somehow it's interwoven. Yes, it's very unique. People do say that. Our retreats are very popular, actually. I have wait lists often, but I, I know that this is something that we need right now, and we need to find that courage. We need to find our hearts right now. And so these kinds of retreats really help people.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think it creates an awakening in people when they do
Yes.
a retreat like that, because it's life changing. It's really a life changing. Those types of retreats just awaken the soul, the spirit within people.
Yes. And what's also so beautiful about it that people don't realize when they're signing up is the community of other people and how much joy and love and connection that the community is so connected. It's with like-minded people. It's, for spiritual communities already. It's like, there's something also that's so healing of us being together. That is the third piece of this that I feel is so beneficial. It's like the beloved family coming together. We need to be together too right now and do this work together. This is not the go it alone moment. It's a unified moment of connection and love, and let's walk together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of people could benefit from going to one of your retreats. So,
Oh, thank you.
so tell me about your podcast. You're also a co-host with Lama Rod Owens to a podcast called The Spirit Underground. Can you tell us a little bit about the podcast? What do you talk about on that show?
Yeah, well, what's so great. So Lama Rod Owens is another teacher friend of mine, and he had come on several retreats. So, as a Buddhist teacher, as trained as a Tibetan Lama, he and I really resonated with all of these modalities. And so we used to have conversations on the phone, and we were like, we should record this, right? Because we would be talking about Harriet Tubman, we'd be talking about the Buddhist practices, and we'd be talking about the indigenous people and the medicine and our healing. So that's really what it was about. And we call it Spirit Underground because it is sort of connected to the Underground Railroad. These plants being illegal and people going to jail. There's an underground, it's like the mycelium. It's happening, it's seeping down into it underground. And so we called it Spirit Underground because it was just that it just felt so appropriate, and conversations on liberation. And we're trying to use these ideas, the medicine, all this to liberate this is and to practice. So we talk a lot about practices outside of medicine work, but then how the medicine can be combined. And so yeah, I'm very excited. We just started. We have about 6 or 7 episodes, and we're just excited to keep going. And keep sharing our unique blend of all these three. So it's really what you were talking about. It's the three of these with another person who also does that.
That's great. And how can they find the podcast? Is it on like
It's
iTunes, Spotify?
everywhere. It's on iTunes, it's Spotify, wherever you get your normal podcasts, it's all there. Just Google it, and they can see it also on my website.
Okay, that's great. And it's called The Spirit Underground.
Conversations on liberation. Yep.
Awesome. That's great. Now I know it's already coming up to a close of this podcast. Time just flies. So how can people, number one, find your books? Are they on Amazon, Barnes and Noble,
Yeah, my books
online?
are everywhere. I'm a house author, and so you can find them any bookstores or on an independent booksellers online. Of course, they're on Amazon and Audible. All my work is there. So you can also just find me through my website, springwasham.com. And yeah, and hopefully be inspired.
That's great. And also on your website, there is information about the different retreats and
Yes.
events
So
coming up.
there's always going to be links to my retreats. So We have also, it's through Lotus Vine Journeys is the name of my organization, which hosts those retreats. So there's a link there that will just take you right over. Yeah. So you'll get all the information you need by going to my website.
All right. And your website is just springwasham.com.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure to put that in the podcast notes as well, just so people can just click on it and go straight to your website. Do you ever do like online retreats or events or teachings?
Yeah, I do. I don't have any coming up. I think I got a little burnt out on it, but I'm revving up again, you know. I really enjoy being in rooms with bodies of people and connecting and looking into people's eyes and but I love the accessibility of having a virtual and being online and connecting with so many people. I do that, and I love to do that. I don't have anything coming up, but there will be. We're in the midst of scheduling a bunch of different things, but so you'll have to stay tuned for that.
Yeah. And do you have like a newsletter or something people can sign
I
up for?
do. People can sign up for it on my website, and they'll get a newsletter with all kinds of activities and different things that are happening. And I also have a YouTube channel people can check out. And so there's lots available online. I try to put out as much content that people can access freely. And that's really important to me. So I'll be doing a whole bunch more, make a ton of videos on practices of the heart and teaching. So yeah, I hope to do much more in the future, just just sharing content and ideas and messages of hope and possibilities for healing. I think this is what people are really looking for, or what can help them get out of wherever they are that it feels so stuck and into a better place. And so I'm really inspired to help everybody that I can find that strength in themselves and get through any moment that feels unbearable, because there's hope and there's always transformation no matter where you are in this moment.
And how do people find you on YouTube?
They just Google me. Yeah, if you just put Spring Washam on YouTube,
And
you'll
you'll come
just,
up.
everything is kind of just under my name because I never met another Spring Washam before. So it's kind of easy. It's very easy to find me.
Right.
Just put it in the Google search engine and everything will pop up. I really, it's good,
I love it. So anyway, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be a guest on the podcast today and sharing all your knowledge with the listeners.
It's an honor. Thank you.
And I will put your link to your website in the podcast notes. And everybody go check out her books and her website. She's just an amazing woman. You'll learn so much from tuning into what she has posted everywhere. So again, thank you for taking the time to be a guest today.
Absolutely.
As we conclude this episode, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for your presence within our community. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with friends and family. Subscribe to my newsletter in the show notes and receive new podcast episodes delivered right to your inbox. If you resonate with the interconnectedness of mind, body, and soul, and are motivated to embark on a journey of personal healing, I invite you to connect with me at drlottie.com. Together, we can pave a path towards transformative healing in your own life.